It's 5:30 and I welcome everybody to the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment for Monday, November the 19th, 2018, and I call this meeting to order. And at this time, I remind members to make any acknowledgement of pecuniary interest either now or when it arises on the agenda. Item number 3 is the adoption of minutes, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Minaj and seconded by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, dated November the 19th, 2018, that we adopt the minutes of the September 17th, 2018 meeting as circulated. Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I don't believe there's any additional business, so we will move on into the public hearings, which is item 5.1. This is the minor variance A-61-18.44. This is a property owned by Andrew Lander and Suzanne Carswell of 35 George Street. Ms. Fortier.
Thank you. This should be pretty quick. It's a pretty straightforward application. So just a bit of context, this is a property in the just south of the town of Port Elgin, at the intersection of George Street and Snyder Street in the former Saugeen Township. And the application is to allow for an addition that will continue on the existing legal non-conforming front yard setback. So the existing cottage encroaches approximately 1 meter into the front yard, and so this application would allow that encroachment to continue. This property is residential. It's a seasonal residence. It's a cottage, and it's all residential, both seasonal and permanent in that area. The servicing is through municipal water and private septic, and it has access from both George Street and from Snyder Street, but their main access is taken off of George. So we've got the site plan here. So the existing cottage, and my pointer doesn't seem to be working, is to the right, and the proposed addition is the box on the left. The septic is in front of the existing dwelling. So you can see the corner of the existing property sticks out about just about 1 meter in that corner towards the front yard, and the proposed addition would be in line with that existing front yard setback, and also the corner of it would stick out about 1 meter. But you can see that, and the driveway is to the right of the existing dwelling on this here, so to the east, and to the east of the existing septic bed. So just briefly in terms of the policies, there's no issues from a provincial policy standpoint here. There weren't any concerns raised in terms of natural heritage or natural hazards. As you can see, it's right adjacent to the existing house that's proposed to be developed, and there's already been some development in that area. In terms of the county official or the local official plan, it is shoreline residential, which permits both seasonal and permanent residential dwellings, so there's no issue from an official plan standpoint. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the property meets most of the zoning bylaw provisions for the residential first density special zone. The R12 zone recognizes existing lots on private services and that are serviced through private setback, and just requires an increased side yard setback on one side in order to ensure access to septic systems. And so apart from the existing encroachment into the front yard, the proposal meets all the provisions of the R12 zone. And you can see this here is where they've proposed the addition. There is one little stake that you can kind of see in the middle. That's kind of where the corner is proposed. So they've kind of, right, it's kind of, right there. So they have kind of staked it out, and it would be kind of just to the side of that dwelling. So it's not all that large of an addition. In terms of comments, there are no objections received by Town of Saugeen Shores staff. In terms of the other agencies circulated, the Conservation Authority noted that the property is not infected by any natural hazards, and that natural heritage features affecting the property include significant woodlands, potentially fish habitat, potentially significant wildlife habitat, and potentially the habitat of endangered and threatened species. However, they determined that the impacts would be negligible and did not recommend the preparation of an EIS. They did note that the northeastern portion of the property is subject to the SVCA's OREG 16906, but that their regulation does not include the area of the proposed addition, and that a permit is not required from them for the proposed development, and so it's acceptable to SVCA staff. There are no other issues raised by any other agencies, and there are also no comments received from the public. So just to go over the factors in evaluating this, there's no issue in extending the existing front yard setback. The proposed encroachment won't have any impact on the character of the surrounding area, and it won't, and it's appropriate for the dwelling to keep it in line, and it's considered minor and shouldn't contribute to any persistent issues. And there's no new nuances being created through this encroachment, so there's no buffering or any other measures necessary in this instance. So with that, I do recommend approval of the application to allow for the addition.
Thank you, Ms. Forte. As there's nobody in the gallery, we'll move on to the committee. Any questions? We'll go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tessa, so the proposed addition, had they moved it a little further down, they wouldn't be encroaching, or the setback wouldn't have been required, right?
Yeah, so they might have run into something in the side yard then. Oh,
It looks pretty close. It looks like well, from this scale it does. But.
Yeah, all I could see is if they moved it back, then their side yard corner might then be encroaching into the side yard, so they decided to keep it in line with the front yard to keep it with those same dimensions. But yeah, they probably could have moved it back that meter potentially, but then yeah, it would be set back more from the existing kind of front yard or front wall of the house.
Yes, I just don't understand the difference because you say it's in line with the encroachment already, but it's not in line with the end of the building. So there's an angle there.
Yeah, so they haven't asked to increase the encroachment, and I think if you kept it in line with the building, then they'd be asking to increase the encroachment further.
Right.
So they've just asked to maintain it where it is.
So anytime there's an addition to a property, does that encroachment that already exists come into question?
Yeah, so they would have to go through this process then to allow it to continue. Yeah.
To continue. Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pat, can I address my question to Jay, I guess, please? And I'm going to assume I know, and I just want you to verify. So when we start to talk about the proposed two-story addition is going to allow for many more occupants, then, or, we would assume that depending on the number of bathrooms that are built, at one point do we analyze if the existing tile bed is going to be worthy of having more residents in the home because of the expanded two-story extension?
So if I can answer that, the tile bed and septic system generally would have to demonstrate during the building permit process that it's capable of handling the additional bedroom space or plumbing that's been installed, and that's the trigger for that review. Well, yes, if they wanted to put another unit there, then they'd still have to comply with the bylaw, which they wouldn't be able to. But if they are just making renovations and additions in compliance with the zoning bylaw, it's at the building permit stage. They'd look at the tile bed.
There's no other further questions. I have a motion moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Minaj, dated today, November the 19th, 2018, that minor variance application A-61-18.44 be approved, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that the proposed addition be permitted to encroach 1 meter into the required front yard. Number two, that any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw. And three, that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A attached to the decision sheet and forming part of this decision. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Our next meeting will be on December the 17th, and that's a tentative date. And that we're there. Yeah. And I have a motion moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Minaj, dated today, November the 19th, 2018, that we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the Secretary Treasurer. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.